Hey guys, Ryan here. I'm going to be doing a high-end rod review. I'm going to start doing some of these videos with just the models I have, so doesn't mean that there's going to be a ton of them. I got this idea from Brian over at Punch Fishing. Shout out to him. I'm not affiliated or know Brian in any way. May have exchanged like 2 messages with him, but I really appreciate his videos. That has really kind of got me started on this because he does a really great job of an in-depth breakdown. I mean, start to finish on all these rods, and a lot of people go to that. So I am doing this because I want to talk about specific models that haven't been reviewed by others that I looked for in-depth reviews on and haven't been able to find them. Sometimes you'll get a few sentences in the forums. So I'm a participant in a lot of the forums, and that's a good source of information, but there's just not a huge breakdown of all of these rods. So there's some other companies and other groups that do a really good job, Tactical Bassin being one of them. I've watched countless hours of Tactical Bassin videos. They do recommend a fair amount of rods. However, they don't go into super detail a lot on specific models. They do on some not others. But most of the stuff that I'm going to be doing videos on are rods that I can't find an in-depth description of, and that I would want others that if they were looking for a rod and looking at, hey, this specific model, and trying to figure out if that's a model that they would really want, when you're spending this kind of money, $500 on a specific rod, you know, you want to feel good about your purchase. So I'm gonna do these videos. I'm not used to doing these videos, so I'm gonna probably jump all around, and I apologize for that. I'm going to try not to edit them in any way. It's just going to try to be one continuous quick video about the specific rod. So today we're going to be talking about the Megabass 2020 P5 Destroyer. Again, there's been some other reviews out there on them. They're fantastic rods. This is the 6'7" Tachyon Shaft. These P5 Destroyers, I believe, have titanium SIC guides. They are not Torzite, so they're not the very top of the line, but they are really nice. They're really light. This rod itself is gorgeous. It is, I believe, 4.35 ounces. I don't have the number on me, but I will put it in the description. It's incredibly light. Again, it is 6'7", so it is a short rod. This is a 6'7", heavy power. According to Megabass, it's an F6.5, and it's rated from 1/4 to 1.25 ounces. It calls for 12 to 25 pound line. We'll talk about that more in a minute. But this is a heavy powered rod. So when each description that is out there on these rods, each P5 has a little paragraph about it, which is great. And I believe the paragraph basically says on this one, it was designed to be Megabass's ultimate jig rod, the most hardest hitting, very specifically. They call that hardest hitting, most sensitive jig rod Megabass has ever built. That's a pretty serious statement, and it kind of got me excited. Just one more thing, jumping back. These rod reviews are going to be, or tackle reviews in themselves, are going to be from me using the rod, pretty in depth. If I've had quite a number of trips on these rods, it's the only time that I'm going to give a discussion on them. This is not an unboxing and talking about what the rod looks like and what I want to do with it and what I think I'll do with it. This is going to be what I did do with it. I fished it quite a bit, and this is what I think. So back to the Tachyon Shaft. Again, 6'7", so it's a shorter rod. Those rods in the P5 lineup are JDM rods that are being brought stateside. So a lot of the lengths are shorter, and they're more geared to the Japanese angler. I'm traditionally a longer rod guy, but I've gotten kind of excited to use some shorter ones. I got into dock skipping this year, really enjoyed it, and that's what really got me excited about the P5 lineup. So I went ahead and picked up the 6'7" Tachyon Shaft. It's one of the lesser popular models, and I think a lot of that is because of the length. I don't think people know how fun this thing is. So 6'7". I had a Tatula SV, the 2021 or late 2019. I don't remember when that was. The newest Tatula SV T-wing on it for skipping. It's got a Metanium MGL on it right now. The balance is, again, this is Metanium MGL. This is 2020 Metanium B, 6.3 ounces. It balances right at the lock nut. I'm the guy that wants to put an Aldebaran on everything because why not? Aldebarans weigh like 4.8 ounces versus 6.3, so where else can you shave an ounce and a half off something? Shave an ounce and a half off a rod, right? That's a huge deal. So if you can put an Aldebaran on stuff, I've been lately putting longer handles on Aldebarans. I think they're fantastic. I had an Aldebaran on this. It just probably wasn't perfect, again, because you want that tip-up action, that jig action, after you get that bait in that area. So the Tatula SV balances really well. I may get one of those new 2020 Zillions and throw on it, or 2021s. We'll see. So, but the balance is fantastic. It balanced perfect with that 6.3 ounce-ish reel. So sensitivity. There's a lot of discussion about the P5, the X bites was a discussion, and how great it was and great it is. It is fantastic. I haven't fished the X bites, but this thing is NRX sensitive. I have a NRX 852S spinning rod, and I had an 893S or a C casting rod, like the greatest senko rod and light jig rod of all time, arguably. Crazy sensitive rod. This rod is as sensitive to me, so that's saying something. So sensitivity is great. The fit and finish on all the Megabass rods is great. You know, Brian talked about that from Punch Fishing. The thread wrapping, all that stuff is perfect. They're just fantastic rods. The ergonomics of the reel seat. I hold my rod like this. I choke up on it. If you call that choking up, it just really, the reel seat's perfect. It's fun. So this rod is, I'll talk about the guides. So the guides are titanium SIC, I believe. Not Torzite, so they're not the highest end rods like you get on the Conquest. Again, they're just one step below those. They're perfect. I want to talk about the guides for a quick second because I heard people talking about, and I read about them talking about them being micro guides, and some people I saw like got a rod in the mail and they were all upset and they wouldn't have bought it if they were micro guides. They are not micro guides. They are small, but they are not micro guides. My 7.3 medium heavy Poison Adrena has bigger guides, yes. I am a braid to leader guy. I fish almost exclusively, even on some finesse stuff, with the exception of spinning rods, 40-pound smackdown to 16 to 20-pound Sunline FC 100 leader. Shout out to Tactical Bass, and they recommended that product back early this year, I believe. That is that system leader, and it is awesome. So, but 16 to 20-pound leader attached to 40-pound smackdown. I tie an Alberto knot. I use the cinch rings because I've cut the crap out of my fingers forever. I cinch the knot down really tight, but I don't do a great job. I don't spend a lot of time on my knots. I do okay. I leave the tag ends long because I'm paranoid. They make a little noise going through the guides. It doesn't affect the casting distance at all. It doesn't get hung up. It's not a big deal. These guides work. They work fine for braided leader. And obviously, if you're a straight fluorocarbon guide, it's a non-issue. So we talked about sensitivity. We talked about fit and finish. We talked about balance. Let's talk about what this rod was good for, in my opinion. Again, it's rated from 1/4 to 1 1/4 ounce. In what I've done with it. So 1/4 ounce, I was throwing some 1/4 ounce Tokyo rigs down in Florida. I fished the last 2 weeks down in Florida at Headwaters Lake. I was down there. I was down at Lake Lawton and Three Forks Marsh a bunch. Parents have a house down there, and it is awesome. So anyways, throwing light Texas rigs. You can throw a 1/4 on here, especially if you have the right reel. I was throwing 1/4 ounce tungsten and I believe 1/8 ounce tungsten on a little Tokyo rig into flooded bushes in like 3 feet of water with my son on Thanksgiving Day and some days around that on a little Tokyo rig with a crawl, and it was a blast. You can pitch this thing because it's so short. You can pitch it anywhere. I'm in the canal pitching it into palm trees. It's amazing. I never realized how fun shorter rods would be. I thought that there was going to be this massive hindrance with casting distance. There's not. So it's good for light Texas rigs, light Tokyo rigs. I'm the guy that pushes it, so I try to push it on graphite rods. So I'm not the guy that fishes a fiberglass chatterbait rod. I don't know why. I just don't like it. Probably because they're big and clunky or heavy. So I threw a lot of 3/8 ounce jackhammers and half-ounce jackhammers, but definitely 3/8 ounce jackhammers with either the 4.5 ounce Hog Farmer Spunk Shads or the Yamamoto Cowboys, which are heavy. So a 3/8 jackhammer with a Yamamoto Cowboy on it actually weighs 0.83 or 0.88, one of those ounces. So that's a pretty heavy bait. But I threw the jackhammer on this rod quite a bit, 3/8, and caught quite a few fish. And I didn't have any issue whatsoever. This thing's got a fast tip. It definitely has a fast tip, but it bends deep into the blank. So I did not have any fish unload on me, which would be, which is really, really fun, right? So nobody would say throw a jackhammer on this rod. I'm gonna do it. I did it, and I think it was super fun. So some of the other stuff, I threw like Texas rigs on this. I threw swim jigs on this. I walked the frog with it a little bit. I did catch one frogfish on it. It was a blast. Again, the swinging of the hook set, because it's so short, is so fast. I never realized that. I've never used a rod this short. It's good. I threw that G-Crack 5.8 inch bellows stick worm on that with a little grip pin, offset hook. That was perfectly fine. So what else did I throw? What else do I think it would be good for? I mean, obviously it's a good jig and Texas rig rod. It's going to be a good rod for throwing a worm. I still think you can throw a chatterbait on it, but yeah, swim jig, threw a swim jig on it, caught quite a few swim jig fish. Yeah, awesome for that. So the 6'7" Megabass P5 Tachyon Shaft is an amazing, fun, light little tip-up rod for doing any jig fishing. Again, even if I think if you want a chatterbait fish with it, I don't know, it would be an exclusive chatterbait rod. Why it would ever be that necessarily, but if you want to skip chatterbaits up under docks, you can do it with this and work them kind of like a jig. Tokyo rigs, Texas rigs. I did some power shotting on it, handled it really well. This thing makes you smile. I was laughing like a little kid several days down there in Florida, just pitching this thing into cover and getting bit and swinging on it. Because I mean, the sensitivity is unreal. I mean, it's right up there with the NRX and all that top end stuff. You're not missing bites, but when you get a bite, you feel a bite, and you get a chance to just crack them, it's a blast. So don't sleep on some of the other shorter, more unique P5 rods. We all know the X-Bites is, coveted, especially probably because of its length. But the 6.7 Tachyon Shaft's fantastic. I'll be doing a video, but it won't be till the next year on the Super Destroyer, because I just picked up the Super Destroyer 2 as because you gotta have 2 skipping rods, and let's face it, that thing is gorgeous. So I picked up the Super Destroyer. I expect it to be very similar to this in how fun it is to fish, and for the applications. It may be a little more universal, probably throws a chatterbait even better because it's got a little more moderate taper to it. So again, these are $500. So it's pretty expensive for a rod. I wouldn't recommend paying $500 for them. You can get you can try to get a discount. It really depends right now, especially because they're a brand new lineup and they're really coveted. So it's kind of hard to get a discount, but you can get them for cheaper. So for their price point, there's a lot of good rods up there in that price point, but these things are a blast. I don't have anything negative to say about it. It's a cool rod. So don't hesitate if that's something, some of the stuff I've said is something that you'd like to do with it. All right. Appreciate it. Thank you.